Holocaust was raging in Europe. And so we escaped. I mean, I dodged a lot of bullets. When we left Europe, it was during the U-boat campaign when passenger ships were being sunk by the Germans all over through the Atlantic. I was on the last ship, passenger ship, to leave for America before the war started. The sister ship had already been sunk. We were under blackout all night. The ship was blacked out. We wore life preservers with us all day. And I got to mention this, when we arrived in New York Harbor, everybody was on deck. And when the Statue of Liberty came in view, and I always tear up when I talk about this, everybody was on deck. And when they saw the Statue of Liberty, a lot of people went into their knees and cried. And we had reached freedom. We had escaped with our lives, and here we had reached the safe harbor of America. And I'll never forget that moment, because it was such a relief, to be in a safe place. And I always ask my audiences when I give a talk, be aware how lucky you are to be living here. With all the problems that we have here, especially today, these days, but it's a place of safety, security. So that was a voyage to America. One of many, many dramatic moments in my life. Yes.
Is there a part of the book that you would like to share with the listeners? I'd love for them to hear your beautiful prose.
Well, I'll mention a phrase. Okay, I'll give you the setting. I went back to my hometown. I've been back to my hometown, which I love very much. Since the Berlin Wall came down, I've been back about 14 or 15 times. I used to go back every year. At the moment, with the pandemic, I haven't done that. But in when was that? Hold on, I got the date. Yes. 1997, there was a class reunion. And remember, these had all been Hitler Youths. And they were now, they'd studied and become doctors, lawyers, professional men mostly. And they were there. We were all about 70 years old by then, because I was born in 1927. And there was a class dinner. And the MC, self-appointed MC, one of my classmates, asked us to kind of share something about our lives. So when my turn came, I told them what it was like to have been in the schoolyard, and how I was treated in the schoolyard, and how difficult that was for me. And the room became very silent, and I saw tears in a few men's eyes. They were embarrassed, obviously, because they were now post-Nazi era. It had been a long time ago. And I'll read a little bit of what happened there. Wait a second. At the end of the evening, at the end of the evening, as we were putting on our coats, one of the men, a short fellow named Horst, came up to me. He seemed intensely embarrassed. And then, with great agitation, he blurted out, "Richard, I need to tell you something. I was one of the ringleaders, and I want to ask for your forgiveness." I had waited all my life for these words, and when they came, I broke down in tears, and so did Horst. We embraced, and all that had passed between us so many years before melted away in an instant. The moment was so healing for me that it remains one of the turning points of my life. After I returned to America, I decided that I wanted to share with others the gift I had received, to demonstrate that we can revisit even the most painful events of our past, that we need never give up hope for healing. And so I began telling my story in schools and churches and other venues, and presenting a workshop I call The Power of Forgiveness, around the country. That's a passage that I wanted to read.
Wow. Richard, that's so powerful. Everything you've said, I was tearing up when you were describing coming into New York Harbor and seeing the Statue of Liberty. I was tearing up myself as I listened to you talk about that. This passage, I think, is so powerful. You and I, you've been talking about the book, you've been telling stories about the book, and I know that our listeners want to know now where they can find the book. So let me talk about how to get it on Amazon, give the specific title, and do some spelling for them. If you go to Amazon, if you've never been to Amazon to buy a book and you go to their website, there's a sort of a long rectangular gray beige box that's empty. In that box, type Survivor's Odyssey, From Oppression to Reconciliation by Richard, Richard, Wiener. Now it's Wiener. Wiener.
Yeah.
Because we talked about that earlier, so I want to make sure they have that correct spelling. And if you click on it, the book will come up. Now, on the cover of the book, Richard, is a picture of children. Who are those two children?
Well, they're three cousins. The middle cousin was a little older, Martin, who's named after his heroic father, who actually fought on the German side in World War I and received the Iron Cross First Class for bravery. And Martin was sent. His father had died, and his mother sent him out of the country for his own safety without, she was killed in the death camps, but she wanted him to live, so she sent him to what was then Palestine. So I did not know him very well because he left. I'm the guy, the smallest kid, the one on the left in the picture, and the one on the right is my cousin Manfred. Neither of us had siblings, so our parents kind of forced us to be together more than we really were comfortable with. And on the left of this on the left is a background, a medieval house, one of Wittenberg houses, and there's a man standing in front of it, and that is me after my return to Wittenberg when I was, I think I was 63 when I first went back there after the Berlin Wall fell.
Well, the cover right away gets your attention. And if they will click, there's a wonderful excerpt. If they'll look up in the upper right-hand corner of the representation of the cover of the book, there are two words there. It says, look inside. If you put your cursor on look inside and click on it, the book will electronically open. And there's a wonderful excerpt that you can read, and you will really, the very first part of it, you're right there with you as a small child. I mean, this whole thing sounds at the very beginning like this was such a lovely, beautiful, wonderful place to grow up until all of the Nazi stuff started to happen and changed your life completely, because your initial descriptions of the house and playing, and it's beautiful. Now, I know that
it's over 700 years old,
Wow. Well, I know some of our listeners prefer to buy their books from other places besides Amazon, and you and I talked that the book is available some other places. So would you tell the listeners where else they could find it?
Well, you can get it from Barnes & Noble, and you can get it from Ex Libris, the publisher, and I will give you, as a matter of fact, if you want to, if you go to Amazon, you will see 9 reviews of it. That is one thing. There's mostly 5-star and a couple of 4-star reviews. So you get an idea of what the book is about, what people think of it. And there's also a website, a combined website of my 3 books, where you can get excerpts. You can read excerpts. Wait a minute, I want to tell you what to Google. Hold on. I got to find it. I wrote that down so that you can go to that to get a better idea and you'll see the covers, and you can see a little sample of each one, like a poem or two for the poetry books. Wait a second. All right, it's the author, Richard Wiener book collections. If you Google that, you will get to the Ex Libris combined website of my books.
What else is there? There's information about you. There's a blog there. There's a lot of information on that website. Yes,
there is. It gives you a little, especially for Survivor's Odyssey, it gives you a little bio, brief bio. And I also want to read you the dedication of this book.
Please do.
It's a short dedication. That'll give you an idea what my motivation was for writing it. This book is dedicated to all those in the world who strive for reconciliation among both individuals and nations, and who believe that world peace can be achieved by acknowledging our common mortality and the universal need for love, security, and a sense of belonging.
I love that.
Yeah. If
now,
only. Right?
I always like to let an author, especially when an author has written a book that's as personal and as dramatic as your book is, our listeners will become readers. And when they pick up a copy of Survivor's Odyssey and they sit down, this is not a book that they'll read through instantly. They won't plow through it like they might a fiction book or a romance or something like that. This is a book that they will read, and you will take them right to wherever it is you're describing. When they stop that particular reading session, they'll think about what you've said, and they'll think about what's happening. But they'll eventually come to the last page. They'll read the last chapter, they'll read the last page, they'll close the back cover of the book. As readers, Richard, what is the bottom line? What do you really want the reader to take away from this book?
Okay, I'll read you the last couple of paragraphs in the book. It was written, I was still in my 80s. I'm now 95 years old, as I told you. I have reached a stage of life when I want to pass on what I have learned to younger people, which is 99.9% of the population. I have lived through turbulent times and have not only recovered from my early childhood traumas, but have also turned them into a gift that I can give to others. I'll skip that paragraph. Over the years, in my continuing quest to achieve emotional and spiritual balance, I've studied and practiced meditation, yoga, and Tai Chi. Among my most rewarding experiences have been workshops in which I allow myself to let go of preconceived notions about how life should be lived. I'll skip the next one. Blessed with good health, I'm aware that time is not on my side, that I must do all I can to maintain strength, flexibility, and above all, the positive attitude that has served me well over much of my life. Even at this age, I have the good fortune to enjoy a sweet spot of life. There is no telling what the future will bring, but the thought of death no longer frightens me. In the words of a hymn I learned from my English foster mother, we were back here from London. I lived with an English family, a Wesleyan family, and I played the piano, and there was a hymn which had the phrase, "This world is not my home, I'm just a passing through." And so I take it like, I think of my life on earth as a great vacation that, like all vacations, eventually comes to an end, but I've enjoyed every moment of it, both the good and the bad. I've lived a wonderful life, and I try to inspire others to do the same, to realize that time is what life is made of, so don't waste it.